Welcome back, dear friends, to the Crimson Academy's course on the Kitab-i-Iqan. In this section, dear friends, we're covering the last 10 paragraphs of the Kitab-i-Iqan. These are paragraphs 280 through 290. In these paragraphs, His Holiness Baha'u'llah provides further proofs and prophecies on the revelation of the Bab. He cites a number of traditions. According to one tradition, the Qayyam would declare his mission in the year 60, the year in which the Bab declared his revelation. Based on another tradition, the Qayyam would reveal 4 signs from the previous prophets, including Moses, Jesus, Joseph, and Muhammad. His Holiness Baha'u'llah concludes the book by warning people not to be misled if the apparent promises of a hadith have not been literally fulfilled. The real meaning of the hadith may not have been understood. Dear friends, we share with you 5 key points from these last 10 paragraphs of the Kitab-i-Iqan. The first, there are explicit and direct references in the hadith to the events and circumstances surrounding the advent of the Promised One. The next, the revelation of the manifestations of God has a twofold language: the outward, that is direct and has no allusion, and the concealed, whose meaning is hidden. The next key point, people should not be misled if the apparent promises of a hadith have not been literally fulfilled. And the fourth key point, His Holiness Baha'u'llah mentions in paragraph 285 that he cannot perceive anyone on earth sincerely longing for the truth. And the final key point, in the dispensation of Baha'u'llah, only 2 letters out of 3 letters of the name Baha have been revealed. In paragraph 280, His Holiness Baha'u'llah refers to the consummate verses about the Promised One, revealed in the most weighty revelation, the trust of God amongst men, some of which have been cited by Baha'u'llah in the Kitab-i-Iqan. People have ignored these verses as well as the evident traditions and rejected the Bab by adhering to the letter of certain symbolic traditions whose true meaning they have not been able to understand. Considering the context of this statement and the focus of the previous discussions that we have gone through in the Kitab-i-Iqan, it can be assumed that His Holiness Baha'u'llah is referring to the Quran as the most weighty revelation. In paragraph 281, His Holiness Baha'u'llah cites a tradition on the year 60, the year of the declaration of the Bab in AH 1260, as described earlier. This hadith is the response of Imam Sadiq to the question asked by Mubasil on the sign of the manifestation of the Mahdi. This response was, in the year 60, his cause shall be made manifest, and his name shall be proclaimed. This hadith has been recorded in volume 13 of Biharul Anvar, compiled by Majalisi, a Shia scholar, and also in chapter 35 of the book written by Sheikh Ahmed Asai on the issue of the return. And we find this reference, dear friends, in Ishraq Qavari's book, Kitáb-i-Iqán in Farsi, volume 2, pages 879 through 881. In paragraph 282, His Holiness Baha'u'llah states that there are explicit and direct references in the hadith to the events and circumstances surrounding the advent of the Promised One. For example, the sufferings and imprisonment inflicted upon him by the infidels and his sorrows are foreseen in the traditions. His Holiness Baha'u'llah cites a hadith from volume 13 of Baharul Anvar as an example. In our Qayyam, there shall be 4 signs from 4 prophets: Moses, Jesus, Joseph, and Muhammad. The sign from Moses is fear and expectation. From Jesus, that which was spoken of him. From Joseph, imprisonment and dissimulation. And from Muhammad, the revelation of a book similar to the Quran. Ishraq Qavari, in his book Kitáb-i-Iqán in Farsi, volume 1, pages 184 through 212, provides an explanation on the meaning of this hadith. According to the Quran, after slaying a man in the market, Moses was fulfilled with fear. He decided to leave Egypt, and on his departure he was anxious whether his enemies were following him and constantly expected to receive more suffering or a new calamity. Similarly, the Blessed Bab endured various inflictions caused by his enemies and constantly expected a new calamity to arrive. Hence, the sign for Moses was fear and expectation. The Jews accused Jesus Christ of rejecting Moses, his revelation, and his book. According to the Hadith, the Qayyam was expected to receive a similar treatment. Accounts of the short ministry of the Bab clearly illustrate examples of similar allegations and calumnies. Joseph was imprisoned for 40 years in Egypt. After his release from prison, he was eventually appointed as the highest official in charge of collecting food for the period of the famine. During this time, he met his father and brothers. However, he did not reveal himself to them until the appropriate time. This is the dissimulation referred to in the Hadith. As far as the imprisonment is concerned, the Blessed Bab was jailed for 9 months in Maku and for 27 months in Shihriq. Hence, the first sign from Joseph was fulfilled. In 1844, the Blessed Bab announced that he was the gate to one who would come after him. People initially thought that he was referring to another agent or gate to the promised Qayyam. The Bab, as a token of mercy towards the people, apparently did not attempt at that stage to clarify his station. This is the fulfillment of the second sign, dissimulation. Finally, according to the Hadith, the Promised One would bring a book as the Prophet Muhammad brought the Quran. The similarity to the Quran mentioned in this Hadith is in terms of the mysterious nature and creative power of the book, not the identity of the contents. If the book brought by the Qayyam were identical to the Quran, then people would not have rejected it. The revelation of the Bab stands unparalleled among previous revelations. in terms of the magnitude of the writings emanating from his pen, and in the diversity of the subjects treated in those writings. And friends, this is from the Beloved Guardian. God Passes By, page 22. The Beloved Guardian states, no less arresting is the variety of themes presented by these voluminous writings, such as prayers, homilies, orations, tablets of visitation, scientific treatises, doctrinal dissertations, exhortations, commentaries on the Quran and on various traditions, epistles to the highest religious and ecclesiastical dignitaries of the realm, and laws and ordinances for the consolidation of its faith and the direction of its activities. Friends, this is from the Beloved Guardian, God Passes By, page 22. Hence, the Blessed Bab revealed writings that were similar to the Quran in power, influence, and breadth of their content, though more abundant in magnitude. In paragraph 283, His Holiness Baha'u'llah explains that the revelation of the manifestations of God draws upon a twofold language. The first is the outward language that is direct and has no allusion and is a source of guidance for the seeker. The examples are the traditions that have been explained by Baha'u'llah. The second language is hidden and its meaning is concealed. It is meant to test the believers and to allow them to manifest any evil hidden in their hearts. As an example, Baha'u'llah cites a hadith from Imam Sadiq, God verily will test them and sift them. The literal meaning of the concealed statements is not what is intended. It is impossible for people to understand the meaning of these utterances unless their hearts are assured, whose souls have found favor with God, and whose minds are detached from all else but Him. His Holiness Baha'u'llah cites two hadiths to testify to the difficulty of understanding the statements of a concealed language. Every knowledge hath 70 meanings, of which one only is known amongst the people. And when the Qayyam shall arise, he shall reveal unto men all that which remaineth. And the second hadith, to testify to the difficulty of understanding, is we speak one word, and by it we intend 71 meanings. Each one of these meanings we can explain. The second hadith has been recorded from the Shia Imams in different contexts. In this case, the hadith illustrates the nature of the concealed language, and that one word expressed by the chosen ones might have 71 meanings. In paragraph 284, His Holiness Baha'u'llah warns people that they should not be misled if the apparent promises of a hadith have not been literally fulfilled. Otherwise they will become perplexed and deprived of the divine bounties. The real meaning of the hadith may not have been understood. Instead, they should seek its true meaning from those who are the recognized expounders thereof. In paragraph 285 of the Kitáb-i-Iqán, His Holiness Baha'u'llah asserts that he cannot perceive anyone on the earth sincerely longing for truth. In fact, people are all the dwellers in the land of oblivion, and all are followers of the people of wickedness and rebellion. They have forgotten their God, ignored his presence among them, and have pursued the gods of their idle fancies and vain imaginations. He warns that God will do what they have done. He will forget them and leave them on their own. Remembrance of God and not being forgetful of him has been highly emphasized in the Baha'i writings. In a prayer, His Holiness Baha'u'llah refers to the remembrance of God as a remedy for his ills. And friends, this reference is in the Baha'i Prayers, page 85. In a tablet, His Holiness Baha'u'llah counsels, "Grieve thou not over those that have busied themselves with the things of this world, and have forgotten the remembrance of God, the Most Great, by Him who is the eternal truth. The day is approaching when the wrathful anger of the Almighty will have taken hold of them. He verily is the Omnipotent, the All-Subduing, the Most Powerful. He shall cleanse the earth from the defilement of their corruption, and shall give it for an heritage unto such of his servants as are nigh unto him." And friends, we find this reference at the Gleanings from the Writings of Baha'u'llah, page 208. His Holiness Baha'u'llah also states, he says, "Let your reliance be on the remembrance of God, the Most Exalted, the Most Great." And that was also from the Gleanings of the Writings of Baha'u'llah, page 127. Baha'u'llah goes also, he says, "Happy the days that have been consecrated to the remembrance of God, and blessed the hours which have been spent in praise of Him who is the All-Wise." This is also, dear friends, from the Gleanings from the Writings of Baha'u'llah, page 138. The beloved guardian Shoghi Effendi emphatically affirms that it is highly unlikely, nay rather impossible, that any enterprise should prosper and develop short of divine bestowals and confirmations. And friends, we find this in Lights of Guidance, page 459. And without the remembrance of God. In paragraph 288, His Holiness Baha'u'llah states that the book, the Kitab-i-Iqan, has been revealed by the Ba and the Ha. This is a reference to the first two letters of Baha in Arabic. Baha'u'llah does not make any reference to the third letter, which is Aleph. Abdul Baha provides a reason for it as explained by Adib Taherzadeh. And friends, we find this reference in Adib Taherzadeh's book, The Revelation of Baha'u'llah, volume 1, page 83. According to His Holiness Abdul Baha, the full significance and power of the revelation of Baha'u'llah is symbolically represented by the three letters of the name Baha, Be, Ba, Ha, and Aleph. However, in this dispensation, only two of the three letters have been revealed. This means that the full measure of the revelation of Baha'u'llah has not been unveiled to mankind in this age. In a number of tablets, Baha'u'llah testifies to such an interpretation. In a tablet revealed in Adrianople, he states, "Know verily that the veil hiding our countenance hath not been completely lifted. We have revealed ourselves to a degree corresponding to the capacity of the people of our age. Should the ancient beauty be unveiled in the fullness of his glory, mortal eyes would be blinded by the dazzling intensity of his revelation." And friends, we find this reference from this was from Baha'u'llah, cited by the beloved guardian Shoghi Effendi in the World Order of Baha'u'llah, page 116. His Holiness Baha'u'llah also states, the generality of mankind is still immature. Had it acquired sufficient capacity, we would have bestowed upon it so great a measure of knowledge that all who dwell on earth and in heaven would have found themselves, by virtue of the grace streaming from our pen, completely independent of all knowledge save the knowledge of God, and would have been scarce securely established upon the throne of abiding tranquility. And dear friends, this was from Baha'u'llah, cited by the beloved guardian Shoghi Effendi in the World Order of Baha'u'llah, page 104. Dear friends, it's been a pleasure, and thank you very much.